All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome and thank you for attending our webinar today. My name is Ashley Limbers, and I'm the marketing lead at Encompass Solutions. At Encompass, we specialize in ERP consulting and implementations to help manufacturers solve challenges, streamline their operations, and to help drive growth. As a premier partner of Epicor, we deliver tailored ERP solutions that empower businesses to succeed. We are headquartered in North Carolina and have been in business for over 24 years with just over 40 staff members around the globe. And our focus is on manufacturing and distribution, primarily using Epicor software. One characteristic that makes us stand out is that we are very partner focused. We have almost 20 years of experience selling Epicor software while being part of the Premier Partner Program. And we have a certified team of consultants that partner with businesses like yours to help with ERP implementations, software enhancements, customizations, and reporting. And today we are exploring Grow, presented by Brandon Judd. Just a few things before we get started. Today's webinar is being recorded, and a copy of the recording will be emailed to you. And if you have any questions during the presentation, please type them into the question box in your Zoom control panel. We'll bring them up during our Q&A session at the end. And we also encourage you to take the survey after today's event. Our speaker today, Brandon Judd, is a seasoned professional with expertise in manufacturing and supply chain management, specializing in Epicor's Kinetic ERP. He excels in leveraging business intelligence for optimized operations, supporting transitions, and driving productivity enhancements. With diverse roles spanning from production management, project management, and supply chain management, Brandon brings a wealth of knowledge and expertise in streamlining processes and maximizing efficiency. Now, without further ado, we'll turn our time over to Brandon.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Hope everyone is feeling good wherever you may be. Hopefully, you're not having some terrible weather like we had the other day. So let's jump into it. Here's our safe harbor statement. Now let's talk about Grow, what it does, what it can offer, and then after that, we'll do a short demo. So Grow, it's an all-in-one cloud business intelligence solution that gives what we call the citizen analyst everything they need to connect, extract, clean, and utilize their data. Now, Grow allows you to visualize the data that you want. Excuse me, give me 1 second. Got these slides on a timer. Let's just continue talking about the all-in-one. So it provides you everything from ETL functions that are low code. Goodness gracious. I think we're good now. So it has ETL capabilities. Let's do this. So where did I leave off?
Yep, you're right there, Brandon. You said ETL capabilities. I'm not sure why that's transitioning on its own.
Yeah, that's the problem I'm having is trying to prevent it from transitioning. And it keeps doing it. Yeah, I'm not a Microsoft fan at all. It's one of the reasons why we do Grow. So yeah, what I was trying to say is basically it's an all-inclusive platform. You can do your ETL data wrangling, little to no code. You can have data warehousing, and you can do data visualization. The key here is that Epicor also houses, excuse me, Grow also houses your data. And Grow is what's called SOC 2 compliant. So basically, after you pull your data and everything in there, it's considered safe and it has been certified to do so. Now, some of the things that Grow offers, it's integrated and has what's called open connected software as a service platform. It has a complete financial content pack, which gives you a holistic view of all of your accounts receivables, your account payables, and your GL. And when we go to the demo, I'll show you some of the out of the box data that comes in with Grow that you could use to make some changes, mix and mingle, and do what you want to do. It has a sales platform which allows you to see all your quotes, your open orders, your invoicings, and your bookings. It also lets you look at your materials, your inventory, your raw materials, your finished goods, and look at your supplier performance. And lastly, if you have field service and preventative maintenance, you can take a look at those things as well. Now, the cool thing about Grow is the data connectors, in my opinion. Currently, Grow can connect with over 150 different platforms. So a lot of these platforms that you use that are cloud apps, you can connect to your database right away. You don't even have to wait for some sort of company-wide implementation or project to do so. Connectors like Google Analytics, Shopify, BigCommerce, Google Ads, Facebook Ads, all of these things are especially useful for companies that have a strong sales and marketing departments. Um, then there also are connectors like Snowflake and Jira for your technical staff. Uh, and then you can even go beyond that and just use something as simple as Google Sheets or even Excel. Now let's get into some of the no code full stack aspects of Grow. Now, as I mentioned before, there are over 150 connectors. You can see over here, we have Salesforce, Jira, we have SQL, we have something as simple as Google Sheets, and many, many more. The no-code full stack BI means that it contains everything that you need to centralize your data from many different sources. You can clean up your data, you can blend this data, and the no-code tools allow you to create visualizations so you can extract insights from your data, all from one single solution. Now, again, we talk about just what Grow offers. What this means is that as a user, you can use Grow directly from a website, just a basic browser. So if you have Google Chrome, Firefox, whatever your browser of choice, you can do all of this from there. You can connect to all of your popular applications that are maybe software as a services as well, like we talked about. From there, you can warehouse your data and create different data sets and store them in data warehouses. Once you store all these different data sets and you do your transformations in there, then you can start applying some visualizations that allow you to drill down and automate reports even. The takeaway here is that anybody, and I mean anybody can connect to the different sources they need, blend their data to create different data sets. So for example, if you need to get data from Salesforce, as well as data from specific tables in Epicor, this application allows you to do this. You don't have to be an administrator of the application to do it. It empowers everybody in the organization to go in with no code or low code to do what they need to do. Now here we talk a little bit more of the full stack technical side of how it all works. So again, I mentioned that this is a full stack BI. That means that the user can do anything from their browser. They can connect to all their apps, and they can connect to Kinetic to blend their data together. From there, again, you can create all your visualizations and things like that. And it empowers you to do so much more. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail about the technical stack of it all. but if anyone has questions, we can certainly take a look at that. Let's talk about Grow and the differences that it makes. So traditionally, with a business intelligence stack, you need at least three separate software solutions to achieve the same outcome. Grow allows you to reduce your expenses by simplifying the technology required to analyze your data. But because the data is hosted in the cloud, the total cost of ownership to the user is much, much lower than it would normally be, because Grow takes care of all the servers and your data, and it stores it safely. And again, that's Grow's top priority. As I mentioned before, Grow is what's called SOC 2 compliant, and it has been certified, and it is GDPR compliant. You can see here on the left-hand side, it talks about some of the costs that may go into a traditional business intelligence solution. You have Tableau, Local, or Chartio around 25,000. Some folks use things like Snowflake, Redshift, or BigQuery. It can be around 50,000. And then we have some more applications that folks use. A lot of this stuff can total a lot of money per year. But with Grow, again, it simplifies that. It has a bunch of pre-built data connectors for your SaaS applications like Salesforce, QuickBooks, different SQL servers, Shopify. We got different types of SQL servers. We got MySQL, we got Postgres here, we got HubSpot. There's just myriad applications that you can natively connect to using Grow. All you need is some credentials, put those in, and you're connected. Easy peasy. Now, the thing about Grow is that it allows you to have an unlimited number of user licenses, and that gives more employees access to the actionable insights that they would see on a given dashboard. That way, they can make the decisions they need. They don't have to wait for someone to IT or some business analyst to come in and grant them permissions or show them how to use it. All the worker will have to do, even if they're on the move, is open up their phone after they download the Grow app, click on the if it's iOS or Android, and they can take a look at the dashboard, see what they need to do, and go back to what they were doing. And if they wanted to, they can easily switch back to the laptop on the browser to get a much bigger view of the dashboard in question. So the takeaway here is that you have unlimited user licenses, meaning that essentially everybody in your organization can have access to Grow. If they so choose, they could look at the dashboards that were created in Grow from their smartphones, whether it's an iOS or Android. Now, on-prem or on cloud, basically, this slide is saying that we could have Grow whether it's in the cloud or on-prem. If you use BizTrack, you can still have access to Grow in the cloud. Here we just talked about some of the data centers and where they're located. Grow uses AWS as its cloud provider. They have two major data centers, one in the US and one in the EU. Here's when I take a second, let's talk about how Grow is a market leader. Now, Grow has a comprehensive approach to your business data. Now, they also had a recent recognition as a market leader on G2 in the fall of 2024, so not too long ago. And this underlies the value that Grow provides. Their award as a leader, a momentum leader, and a mid-market leader highlights the strong support from their customers and the shared vision for fostering growth and innovation in business intelligence. Basically, for given company sizes, Grow has been looked at as a leader. Now let's talk more about some of the no-code aspects of Grow. This is my favorite part of Grow, is the fact that it is no-code. You can have, in the traditional BI solution, You could have hundreds of lines of SQL code. Sometimes it becomes hard to troubleshoot if you have an issue with your visualization, if you're not sure why certain things aren't showing up. It requires someone with a specialized skill set to be able to work on the data. They have to either know SQL code very well or some other language like Python or R. And then when you have such large data sets that are use a lot of code, it can sometimes degrade the database performance. And the other thing is, a lot of times, some of these platforms have a limited ability to refresh. Usually, the only time they could refresh is overnight. With Grow, you have the option of changing how often you want your data to refresh. So again, we mentioned some things. So the no-code transformations that Grow enables, it allows your business leaders to clean up and blend their data with ease. They don't need a data engineer. They don't even need programming knowledge in languages like R, SQL Server, SQL or Python. They have over 20 no-code transformations, which we'll get into in the demo. And it offers tools for both simple adjustments, like renaming or formatting columns. And you can do even more advanced transformations, such as calculated columns. If you know JSON very well, you can do some JSON exploration, and you can even do some array expansions. The key thing here is that for users with the technical expertise, Grow also provides low-code options, such as SQL query and API integrations. Basically, what I'm trying to say is this is a versatile solution. You have the low-code aspect for people who do have that sort of expertise. And then you have the no-code aspect for folks who don't and just want to go in and make some visualizations and throw up a quick dashboard for their executive team. So it works either way. Now here, let's talk about some of the use cases. Now, these features empower every team within a company or an organization to focus on the metrics that matter most to them. They don't have to rely on complex coding or IT support, whether it's somebody at the very top, such as the CEO who's monitoring the revenue and the pipeline, or the operations team who's tracking the on-hand inventory and the back-ordered status of orders in the stock that they have. Each team can set up dashboards tailored to their unique goals. With Grow, departments across the organization gain the flexibility to design and refine their own data views, which gives them a self-service, data-driven culture, and it helps them with making decisions that they need at every level. Now, the real advantage is that with Grow, it's hosted in the cloud and it's scalable. Again, you could have an unlimited number of licenses. Again, so that means that all the way at the very top, the CEO can go in, and if he so chooses, he can make a dashboard. All the way to your basic business analyst who wants to do something, they can go in and they can make a dashboard. And again, because those are very different users within the organization, most likely they're going to be focusing on very different aspects of the organization. The CEO and the finance team are going to be focusing most likely on revenue and cash flow, whereas the business analyst and or the operations team may be focused on inventory and orders and on-time delivery. With Grow, uh, you basically have the ability to do all of that on top of not needing to have a strong IT background and or knowing how to do SQL Server, SQL code or Python or anything like that. And here are just some of the things that some of the use cases from the various parts of an organization may use. So let's talk about Grow and how fast, simple, and powerful it is. Now, let's say you wanted to set up Grow. It's ease of use, and it doesn't just simplify data management. It also drastically speeds up the onboarding process. In fact, the typical Grow customer only needs about 45 days to fully onboard with Grow, which if anybody who's had experience with the traditional BI knows that it can be a lot longer than that and a lot more cumbersome. There's a lot more players involved. There's a lot uh, there's a lot more involved in terms of the project. So that means it's about a sixth or a ninth of the amount of time that you would take with the traditional BI. So again, from start to finish, if you wanted to say get Grow next week, in a month and a half, you'll be ready to go up and using Grow. Now, I wanted to highlight this doesn't necessarily include all of the dashboards that you would have. Those can be done within the 45 days, but typically what folks do is they wanted to make sure they get as much data as they can into the application, which we'll talk about in a moment with the demo. And then from there, that sets up the other folks in the organization to make dashboards if they so choose. All right, so we're going to skip the super technical slide. Let's just take a moment to compare a solution with Epicor. So there's a solution called Focus EDA. Let's compare that to Grow. So they both have the same kind of deployments. They're both hosted in the cloud. Uh, they both can be used for what's called BizTrack, which can be used for cloud on premise. But personally, I feel that Grow's no-code tools are better for end users who want a self-service kind of solution that helps them set up data transformations such as joins and unions and set up data sets. For data storage sizes, Grow has licensing for the different size pricing tiers and price tiers for for how often the data is refreshed, whereas Focus licenses are strictly by named users. Now, the SaaS app connector library for Grow is much more geared for sales and marketing and project management, and for development teams to pick and choose for themselves in a self-service kind of model. Whereas Focus is stronger in the number of connectors they have for other non-ERP systems, which can be used for like multiple company enterprises running several different ERP systems at once. At this point, the EDA pre-built content for the solution called BizTrack is more comprehensive than Grow, but Focus also offers rebates, which module which Grow doesn't. Focus has a generative AI assistant, somewhat like ChatGPT, whereas Grow does not. There are plans for Grow to have that, and there's a release day, I believe, in the roadmap for 2026. Any generative AI you would more likely see in the future Grow platform. But for AI and machine learning, currently, I would say Focus beats it out. But again, there are something in the future for that. Now, neither Grow nor either AI can be hosted in the government cloud. So if you're ITAR or companies like that, that's a special conversation we would have to have with Epicor. Generally, there's a lot of restrictions on what data should or could be stored in the cloud. And natively with Grow, there are ways in which, sorry about that, I'm going to do that. There are ways in which you could prohibit what data goes into the cloud. But again, that would have to be a specialized conversation. For advanced pivot capabilities, EDI really shines, I would say. If you have a lot of Excel jockeys at your company, those who really like going in doing analysis grids and creating pivot tables and doing things like that. EDI is good for that. Now, one thing about Grow, while we do have access to your receipt, accounts payable, accounts receivable, and your GL, it doesn't offer financial statements or budgeting or forecasting in Grow. However, an integration between Grow and Epicor FP&A is planned for 2026. The EDA financial models for financial statements and budgeting and forecasting are robust, and they work well with the Epicor finances. They also have an inventory snapshot feature, which you can use to analyze its changes in your inventory over time. And I'm given to understand they just opened up a data center, which we talked about earlier in the UK for Grow. Uh, but the long and short of it is when we compare Grow versus EDA, it isn't fair to either product to say with absolute certainty that Grow is more is for one situation and EDA is for another, because they're very user friendly. They're both good for end users consuming dashboards. But in summary, Grow might be a best fit for smaller businesses with smaller data storage needs, businesses with little to no technical expertise on staff to connect and set up new data charts, businesses with web savvy sales and marketing departments who want to connect to their social media, e-commerce, or do some web analytics. It's good for businesses who want to set the groundwork for Epicor AI initiatives with the future data platform that AI is going to be doing in the roadmap for 2026. It's good for businesses who want to combine Epicor Smart IP&O with their Grow dashboards, and for businesses who don't need a unified view of their FP&A. On the other hand, focus is usually better for large enterprises that have large data sets, large businesses that need to connect your dashboards to other ERP systems. So if you have multiple ERP systems within a company, or EDA is really good for that. It's good for businesses who need a unified solution in terms of general analytics plus some financial statements. Businesses who need inventory snapshots, and for businesses who have strong Excel users who will, they appreciate the analysis grid that EDA provides. And again, there's a Gen AI Copilot that Focus has, and you could start using that from day one. And with that being said, again, Grow is a very robust solution that's more geared towards low code to no code, folks who want to just go in there and get started, who use a lot of BAQs and Epicor. You can easily bring that data over. So let's talk about some of our customer experience. So they did some research and they found that for customers who use Grow, there was a $13 return for every $1 they spend, 1,300% ROI. Having a data warehouse plus some ETL, which we call extract, transforming, loading, visualizations, all in the cloud, help keep their costs low and the overall cost of ownership down. When these users can easily blend their data from multiple sources, and they can share up to the minute decision making with real-time visibility, you can see why a platform like Grow is a great investment. So again, high ROI, one platform to combine everything that you need, near real-time visibility, and automation and access across the organization. Okay, so now let's jump into a quick little demo. Now in this demo, what I'm going to show you is a basic Grow dashboard that you can create and show how you can get data from Epicor. I'm a little biased because I like using BAQs, And if your organization uses a lot of BAQs, and Grow is definitely for you because it's very easy to bring these over. So give me a moment while I switch my desktops. All right, so you should be seeing a Grow dashboard. So what we have here is the homepage of Grow. Again, it's web-based. Just type in the URL, save it as a favorite to whichever web browser you want. Here I have a basic dashboard that I created, and I mean very basic. Let's talk about some navigation here. At the top, we have our home icon. It'll take us back to where we want. We have two basic tabs, one for data and one for dashboards. If I click here, you can see here it's underlined. If I click my data, it takes me to a screen that looks similar to what we saw on our presentation. What you have here is your data connectors. Currently, I only have three things connected, two different instances of Kinetic, and we have Salesforce. And you can see here, it combines everything here, and it combines to get us our different data sets. So let's take a moment to explore what our data sets look like. So if I click on my connection to Epicor, this is the connection to our education environment. Here you have some information about the connection, the type of connection, the tables that are already there, who created it, the metrics that we're using, and then we got some buttons here where we can create some data sets and different things like that. And let's talk about our data for a minute. We have a few different things. We have warehouse tables. Here, what I have are basically BAQs that I've brung over from my instance of Epicor. The keynote here is that if you want to bring over a BAQ from Epicor, all you have to do is type in the word grow in front of the BAQ ID, and then dash in the name of the BAQ, and it can bring over. So you can see here from my warehouse tables, I have a drop down when I'm looking at BAQs. If I select on this button that says manage connection, what this does is it goes to my instance of Epicor and it looks at my BAQs. And currently, these are all the BAQs that I've created in Epicor. And I did that by putting the word grow in front of it, dash, whatever the BAQ name is. If I were to create a new one, it would show up in the list and it would be disabled. All I would have to do is enable it and click sync and share. And what it does is it brings that BAQ over with that data, and it's stored in my warehouse. Now we also, aside from BAQs, and these are some of the out of the box Kinetic data that comes over from from Grow. We have a bunch of different things. We have things like accounts payable, receivables, GL budgets, balances, order details, PO values, just a bunch of different things. So let's say, for example, I wanted to take a look at purchasing. I'll say I want to put that in here. I'll select that. And I'll click sync and share. Sync and store. When it comes back to my data page, I can select from my drop down and I would say I want to look at the Kinetic data, and I can see that purchasing is there. If I click this example, from here, I clicked on that purchasing data table that came over from Epicor. Now let's say I want to create a data set for that. I could do so. But before we do that, let's go back a moment. Let's go back to our home page. Let's go back to our dashboards. Now from here, I could create something new. What I like to do is start off with creating new. Let's click the create new button. And let's say for this demonstration, we want to create a metric, and a metric is basically a visualization. We want to create a metric that would show us our on-time delivery. So what we will need to do is we're going to bring in a BAQ, which we're going to make sure that BAQ is already there. We're going to create a new data set, do some transformations, and then make a metric. So let's go back to our data for a second to make sure that that BAQ we need is there. So I'm going to click on the data tab. I'm going to click on my instance of Epicor. And from here, from our warehouse tables, I want to select the BAQ. Now, what I did was I went into Epicor and I created a BAQ called shipments, and it basically had data in there around the date something was shipped, the pack line, excuse me, the pack number, the pack line, and the required date that was on the order release. And that should give me all the information I need to create a data set and a metric. So let's go ahead and create that data set. So from here, what I'm going to do is come back to our blue button, add new, and we're going to select data set. Now here it's asking me, where do you want to pull that data from? So I'm going to select our warehouse button because I want to get that BAQ that I created. So I'll just type in shipments because I know it's there. And it was grow shipments. From here, you can see this is our basic data set builder. Now at the top left, I can give this a name. Let's call it shipments on-time delivery. And I can give it a description. So now we take a look at the bottom here. This is what our data is. This is a basic report. If I wanted to, I could, scroll over here and I can see everything I have here. I could also select this little drop down and I could export this to Excel. Sometimes people like to export their data to Excel to do some pivoting, some analysis, or see it may be easier for them to see what's in there. So I can see I have everything I'm gonna need. I got my shipment header and I have my release. I have a customer name, pack num, and some other information. So now that we have our basic data from our BAQ, and again, the cool thing is in your BAQ, you can do whatever you want there and bring that over. But if you still needed to do some transformations, we can do that here. So over here on the left-hand side in the white panel, let's click Add Transformation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to do a date difference. So I need to see the difference between the order release date and the ship date, and that'll tell me if something was late. So let's call this days on time. And I want to select the order release date. And you can see, since I'm doing a date transformation, only the date columns show up. So I'll select my order release date and my ship date. And I'll say that, the units are going to be days, and I don't want to include any labels. So I'll click run. Once that's done, if I scroll all the way to the left, excuse me, to the right, I can see my column here, my days on time, and it did the calculation for me. So now I want to add another transformation. I'm going to click Add Transformation, and this time I'm going to do what's called a tag. And I want to call this tag on time. Basically, what I want to say is I wanted it to assign the value 1 for a specific condition. And I wanted to look at that new column I created called days on time. And I want to say for anything that's greater than or equal to 1, excuse me, greater than 0, let's just do that. Anything greater than 0, I wanted to give it that tag. So let's go ahead and hit run. And again, if we scroll all the way to the right, we can see. So basically what it's telling us is that there's a 1 if it was on time, because we shipped this 5 days sooner. This was shipped 3 days late, so it's not on time, so on and so forth. Now, the last thing I want to do is I look at my release date column. I can see that some of these don't have a date, and I don't want those in my data set. So I want to do a filter and remove those. So I'm going to add one final transformation, and I want to do a filter. And here I'm going to tell it that for that date column, required date, I want to say it's not blank. So if it's blank, we want to get rid of it. So let's run that. And if I scroll all the way to the right, I should see that I only have items for which there is a date. So now I've done my transformations. I can go ahead and hit click save. And what this is asking me is this my primary report? Because there are instances where you could add other reports. So for example, if I wanted to include some Salesforce information, I could include that and find a way to blend that. But here I'm just going to just use this one. So I'm going to say that's my primary report. Then it's asking me for data access. Who in the organization do I want to give access to this data set? And I'll say you can give everybody view access there. And so now we have our data set created. Now I want to create a visualization for that data set. So I can go back to my add new button. This time I'm going to click metric. And now I'm going to search for that data set that I just created. And I think I called it shipments on time delivery. Yep. Now, anybody who's familiar with things like Tableau or Power BI, this screen looks very familiar. You have, you can select your chart type and other things. So now what I want to do is let's select our chart type to be column. Let's select our x-axis to be, since we want to do on-time delivery by, I guess, year, let's select our required date. And then for our y-axis, we're going to select what we want. So we don't have exactly what we need, since on-time delivery is usually a percentage. So we're going to have to calculate something. So we can click calculate a data series. And here what I can do, and this is where you have some code, but very little, I can just do sum. And I want to select the on time field that I created, and I'm going to divide that by the total number of pack lines that we're looking at. So I can go pack line, I can click save, and we got the first aspect of a visualization. Now this looks a little messy, right? We don't want to see our on-time delivery by day. So over here on the left, what I want to do is I'm going to, instead of saying day, let's say by year. And we can easily see we have our on-time deliveries by year. Now, I don't know what these are. I mean, over here, I have a scale over here, but what I want to do is in my calculated series, I'm going to click these three dots, and I'm going to tell it to show my value labels. And I'm going to tell it for my formatting, I'm going to do a percentage that's rounded. So you can see there at the top, it gave me a nice percentage there. Now, if I wanted to, for these series, I could change the colors, or excuse me, I could change the coloring of this. If I don't like this, I could change this to a different color, but we'll leave the colors the same for now. Now we have our basic outline of our on-time delivery. The only other thing I want to do is I want to set a goal line. I want to see have we been reaching our on-time delivery goal or not? And I can see that we are kind of lagging there, but that's fine. Let's select, let me make sure go back here and make sure so let's select a goal line. So my goal line, I want to do a single value, just saying that our goal is always the same. Let's say we have a low goal and just say that our goal is only 25% on-time delivery. And then we can hit save. Places a goal line there. Now on this goal line, I don't really like the way that looks, so I'm going to kind of change the way that looks. So let's click on these. Let's change it. I want to change the color to something bright that catches the eye. Let's do a bright orange. And instead of a dashed line, let's make it a solid line. Let's make the line a little thicker. And let's get rid of our round bullets. And if we wanted to, we could show the value on the labels. But let's not do that. So let's click save. We got a different line. And so then my final thing is we could show, add a title to this. Add a description. And I'll click save. When I click save, it's asking me which dashboard I want to save it to. I'll save it to my default dashboard. Once it finished saving, it brings me back to my default dashboard. Now it created that metric for me and it put it over here. But what I can do is everything is attached to a grid, so I can drag and drop it where I want and expand it how I like there. And so I was able to create a metric using a data set that I created, using a BAQ I created, and added it to my dashboard. Now over here, I can select the drop down. There are many other dashboards that other folks have created or that I've created in the past that we can go to. We can have orders dashboards. You can lock the accessibility to this by user. You can star your dashboards to make them your favorites. And then if I wanted to, you can drag and drop the ones that are your favorites to the top. The one that shows at the top is the one that opens up when you open up Grow. So that was a basic, let's go ahead and close this guy, a basic demo of Grow. So now let's open it up for questions.
That was great, Brandon. Thank you. A lot of great information. If you have any questions, you can type those into the Q&A on your control panel. And while we wait for that, Brandon, do you want to go back to the slide deck and just talk about our next webinar while we're waiting?
Sure.
Okay. So Brandon is kicking off our reporting series with Grow. So our second webinar of the 7-part series is going to be on FP&A. And so that's going to be on March 27th at 11 a.m. ET. So if you'd like to register for that, you can scan the QR code and also be on the lookout in your email for an invitation to register. Brandon, I am not seeing any questions at this time. Was there anything else you wanted to mention before we go today?
Yeah, I think the one thing I forgot to mention was that with Grow, if you're a new cloud customer with Epicor, you should automatically get at least one license to Grow. And with that one license, it is, you can go in, get Grow set up, and you can start testing it out to see how you like it. Create some dashboards, create some data sets and things like that. And if you wanted to scale it up, it's as easy as getting more licenses, and you can update the refresh frequency.
Yeah, that's very true. Could you please go to the next slide? Perfect, thank you. Um, we appreciate everyone being here today. If you would like to see a demo, or if you'd like a demo for your team, please reach out to us. We would love to do that for you. You can respond to the follow-up email that's going to have a recording and a copy of the deck, or you can email us at support or reach out to Brandon or myself, and we would love to help you. We appreciate you being here, and we look forward to seeing you at our future events. Thank you.